Welcome back to another episode of the MX Endurance Podcast, where we look at everything that's been happening in the world of endurance sports. My name is Tim Ford, and I'm joined by the penultimate legend, the sexy shepherdess, the sexiest voice, or maybe the second sexiest voice in triathlon this week, because as you can hear, I've got that husky thing happening. James Bell, welcome back to the podcast, mate.
You're sick, mate. You're sick. You're sick. You should have phoned in
sick of you, James.
I should have been doing this on my own. Mate. How are you, man? You all right? Other than being slightly under the weather.
Yeah, no, can't complain, mate. It's another week, another podcast. Podcast day is one of my favorite days of the week. For those who are similar to me and enjoy playing video games, I started down the rabbit hole of Elden Ring this week, so I think that's going to take up a large chunk of my life and may
never heard
it's
of
actually
it. Never
mate,
heard
it's
of it.
Mate, you don't know what you're missing out on. It's George R.R. Martin helped to write the world for it, but it's these huge games that are very hard, and I'm right into it. So it's probably good that I got sick because it means I can't train at the moment, so I've got more time to play a bit of PlayStation. But mate, nobody really cares about my PlayStation. They care that this podcast is the official podcast of MX Endurance Sports' premier endurance sports community, created by four-time world champion Chris McCormack. Jimbo, what's something you like about MX Endurance?
Well, at the moment, we know we're all zeroing in on the sub-7, sub-8 challenge, which is going to be happening in Germany in June. And MX Endurance is going to be running in parallel with that, aren't we? We're going to be running a sub-7, sub-8 challenge to see how quickly the members of MX Endurance can do an iron distance event. And that is going to be collated through all of the different people's data and training data and information over the few months. We're going to be doing swim, bike, then run. At the moment, we're in the swim portion, seeing how... I think
soon. Next month.
Soon we're going to be gluing together everyone's 100-meter times, fastest 100-meter times in the swim, and coming up with the fastest MX endurance based iron distance swim. Then we'll do the same on the bike, but it'll be more than 100 meters. I assume it'll be a kilometer.
5K.
5K times glued together, and then on the run, what will the distances be?
1K.
So yeah, it's going to be an interesting little experiment as to how quickly our members can go as a group.
Yeah, exactly right. We're doing this to, I guess, celebrate. Somebody suggested what we should do is we should see if MX Endurance can go faster than Lucy, and if we can, that's how we get your photo up on the wall in their pain cave. So they'll have that photo of James Bell in the white tracksuit. So MX Endurance, if you
like a virtual relay, isn't it? Really.
Basically, yeah. So it takes the 38 fastest 100-meter splits that our members can do. What I can never work out the bike. 90. Is that right? I don't know. Whatever it is. No, it wouldn't be that. Whatever it is. 40 something. Anyway, the number of bikes for 5K and 42 people's fastest 1 kilometer runs. And then we put it all together and we see where we're at. Just a bit of fun. We did one, was it last year, the year before, we did to see how long it would take us to swim, bike and run around the world. And we did it in like 2 weeks. And we're at the point now where we've nearly gone the circumference of the sun. So we're doing pretty well, mate. I like these little virtual challenges that sort of takes into account.
It's exactly. Really interesting when you start looking at everyone and what they do across different places and different platforms, and we're all pulling in the same direction, really.
Now I did realize, James, that I didn't even get the opportunity before I did my little spiel at the start to say, how are you going, Jimbo? What's happening with James Bell at the moment?
I'm all right, mate. I'm swimming and biking and lifting weights. I still can't run because my ankle is ridiculously annoying. I can't tell you how frustrated I am with my ankle at the moment. But other than that, yeah, ticking along nicely. Not
so sick. Are you going to learn your lesson, mate? And we're going to see no more night running around the crazy streets of Devon.
Yeah, we're not going to see much more night running, I don't think. I couldn't believe the perfect storm of a fucking nightmare that made that happen, because my treadmill, which is right here.
I was about to say, what's that behind you?
Yeah, it had split. It split. The walking board had split down the middle. So I was like, well, I can't do my late night run on my treadmill, so I better go outside with my head torch. And and I fucked it. But I have bought a new walking board, which is here. And I'm going to be installing that over the next few weeks, because I'm moving the gym from in the annex from upstairs to downstairs, and I'm moving the office upstairs. So the office is going to be a warmer environment. The gym's going to be more of a cold, sort of grey,
pain cave
done environment.
Pain cave.
So I've got some stuff to do, but it's all right, mate. Life's all right.
Very good. Well, what else is all right is the news we have. This is a very, very news-heavy episode this week. Heaps to talk about. We have races, we have running races, we have all sorts of things. And we're going to start with something that actually slipped through at the start of the month. I'm surprised that we missed this, and I'm surprised nobody else has talked about this. I got this from Liz Barrett at 220 Triathlon. That is the news that Flora Duffy to race 70.3 Worlds. In an exclusive interview with the reigning Olympic, World, Xterra, and Commonwealth Games champion, Flora Duffy revealed to 220 Triathlon how she definitely has some aspirations for the 70.3 distance this year. Speaking to them across a team's video call from her training base in Stellenbosch, the 34-year-old Bermudan also reassured her fans that she would still be racing short course in 2022. My main focus is on the WTCS and Commonwealth Games in Birmingham, but I'd like to qualify for the 70.3 Worlds at the end of October in St. George. I'm looking at the calendar now, and it's actually really difficult to fit in a qualification race in by the cutoff, given my schedule. But it's still a goal and something that excites me. It's important for me to do that stuff right now, just because it's different and it gets me out of my comfort zone. Jimbo, how good is this?
Yeah, it's exciting, isn't it? Because we've said for a long time that Flora Duffy would be fantastic over the 70.3 distance. Now, don't get me wrong. I don't think she's far from finished with the Olympic distance. I think she's got she's certainly got Paris in her and a gold medal there if she puts her focus towards it. But it's really good to see her extending herself to the 70.3 distance, seeing what she can do over that distance. Because I think Olympic distance to 70.3 are good bedfellows, really.
I'm torn here, mate. I'm really, when I read this, I'm quite torn because part of me absolutely wants to see Flora Duffy go and race 70.3 hours, and I think if she does, she'll win it. But I also have made the big prediction that Ash Gentle's going to win 70.3 hours this year. And I think that if Flora does, Ash won't. So I'm like, oh, no. Like, I don't know which one to go with because my desire to get things right on the podcast. Now, I'd be super keen to see Flora do this. The fact that she might not get... I don't know. What do you think about this? Because we saw Ironman throw out the offer for Kona to both Christian and Flora after they won their Olympic gold medal. Do you reckon that they'd be interested if she can't get in a qualifier before then go and do 70.3 worlds instead? Do you think that there's that opportunity? And do you think age groupers would lose their minds like they did about Kona?
Yeah, possibly. I mean, we may see things like that happen. I'm not particularly... I don't know, the way the year is going to play out. I think we're going to see a much more normalized year this year. I think we're going to see things shake out as we're expecting them to, as opposed to not. So I think Flora Duffy could very much. I think. Oh, look, I know that you predicted Gentle to win the 70.3 Worlds, but I think if Flora Duffy rocked up and did it, she would win it.
So do I. That's what I'm saying. That's why I was torn.
Was that the question you asked me? Because I'd zoned out a little bit while you were talking, and then suddenly you handed over to me, and I was like, there was a question there, and I don't actually know what you asked me.
I love to hear that you're hanging on my... No, what I asked you... Jesus, bloody hell, mate. I'm the sick one here. What I asked you was, do you think that we saw Ironman offer her a slot to Kona last year, which she didn't take? If she's unable to get in a qualification event for 70.3 Worlds, do you think we'd see Ironman offer her a slot?
Yeah, I completely missed that. I completely missed that element of what you were saying, and I was floundering then, trying to just say, yeah, I think the year's going to shake out exactly as... Shut up, Farrell.
I love it that you said... I love that I had this whole thing about how I'm torn because I want Flora to race, but I also want Ash to win because I predicted it. And you're like, yeah, mate, I think that... I know you said Ash will win, but I think Flora will probably win if she races. I'm like, yes, thank you. That's literally exactly what I just spoke about for 2 minutes. So the problem is, James, while you zoned out before, I think most of our listeners have now zoned out because they just heard the same thing twice. But
no, I don't think. I think if she was given a slot for the 70.3 Worlds, there wouldn't be as much shit losing by age groupers as there would be for Kona, as there was for Kona, because Kona has got some real place in people's minds because it's always in the same place, because it's got that history to it of 40 odd years of history with the sport, and people have targeted it for a long time. Some people have been trying for years and years to get there. And when athletes get given a free space, some people with a certain mindset lose their shit, I think, unnecessarily. But with the 70.3 Worlds, the way it rotates, some years you might want to go and do one, some years you might not want to go and do one because it's in the wrong place for you. I don't think it holds the same level of making people go crazy as Kona does.
Just reading that then, we went through her accolades where she's the Olympic champion, she's the current WTCS world champion, she's the current Xterra world champion, and the reigning Commonwealth Games champion. Let's assume she wins Commonwealth Games again. Assuming, I'm not saying she will, but she's got some stiff competition. I think she will. She wins Commonwealth Games, so she's got all those things. Then she wins 70.3 Worlds, and then in the next year or two, she decides to go race Kona and wins that. Do you think having every single one of those titles potentially at the same time, like, what do you think that does? I know, and what I'm doing with this is I'm trying to segue in that we did that greatest female athletes of all time article a while ago by 220 Triathlon. And I saw that they've recently updated it, and Flora Duffy was in it at number 6. So with that situation I just said there, what do you think that would do for the discussions around greatest of all time?
I think for the discussions for people who are aficionados of the sport, she would start climbing up, But I think,
on, mate, come on, like us, come on,
like us, yeah. I think a lot of these things come down to marketing yourself, though. And triathlon has a short memory, and the triathlon audience has a short memory. Flora Duffy is an outstanding athlete, but she doesn't do a huge amount of the social media stuff. She doesn't do a huge amount of the branding type stuff. She kind of reminds me a little bit like Nicola Spirig in the sense that she's just outstanding, but she flies under the radar without really banging her own drum that much. So I think she will possibly always lose out a little bit to some of those athletes that really do sell themselves down that branded I am this person route, if you know what I mean. What do you think, Tim Ford?
I think she's muscling her way into that list, and she absolutely deserves to be on it.
Same.
And I think if she was to, if, as I said, have all those titles hypothetically, I don't think anybody's ever done anything like that before. That would be something, hey, like to have everything at once. I think
without question, she'll always be in that conversation. But
she has,
and without question. But the thing I find is she's kind of like how Nicola Spirig is always left out of these conversations a little bit, or not left out, but overlooked slightly.
It's interesting you say that, because you talk about like fly under the radar and stuff, but you look at a lot of the athletes who are on that list who existed in a period of time where we didn't get the same, like, I mean, there was literally not the internet for some of them. There was no social media for a lot of them. Like, there wasn't that same exposure to them. So do you think maybe the reason that some of those, like, do you think there's some have benefited from that because it almost becomes this like aura around them, because it was like mystical or something, because you get the articles in the magazines and you'd catch a glimpse of them somewhere. You didn't have that always in your face thing that we seem to get these days. Do you think that's probably benefited some, and then now it's what was a benefit in the past is maybe a disadvantage these days?
Yeah, totally. I think in the past, certainly, and also less racing. So you had less opportunities to fail, if you know what I mean. So you weren't stretching yourself across quite such a long season. It's like any sport really back in the day. F1 drivers, for example, when they were racing a limited season with limited races, and some of the greats of the past are still held up as some of the best racers in the world, and probably wouldn't hold up to the demands of a season that if you put them in the season and the technology now. So it's very difficult to compare eras when you've got, like
Don't be that guy. Don't be that guy. Come on now.
I'm that guy suddenly. But yeah, it is difficult to compare eras because of that. Because, you don't know how an athlete from 30, 40 years ago would respond to the demands of a season now. And you don't know how an athlete from now would respond to the sort of unique inventiveness of the sport back then, and how it was sort of rolling out, and they were sort of sussing it out as they went along. Nowadays, there's a bit more of a roadmap, and it's like, well, this is what you do to be a triathlete, as opposed to, fuck it, I don't know how to be a triathlete. Let's just see what happens. Because some of those athletes back in the day might have just been very, very good at adapting to not knowing how to do things and finding their way.
Fair enough. Well, look, that was a good chat, mate. We're going to move on to the next thing, because as I said it, so I got
plenty to go. Full of it.
We're 15 minutes in, mate. We've done one article of like 10 this week.
Fucking loads of them, haven't we?
We'll press on. The second thing comes from John Levinson at Try 24/7, and that is Hayden Wilde outside of PB and Commonwealth targets over 5,000 meters in Auckland. Friend of the podcast, Hayden Wilde. I wanted to put this one in here because Olympic triathlon bronze medalist Hayden Wilde was back on track literally on Wednesday when racing the 5,000 meters at the Daker Night of the Fives in Auckland. The Kiwi has expressed a desire to double up his Commonwealth Games ambitions in Tokyo by qualifying for the 5,000 metres on the track too. Wilde, of course, has been the New Zealand national champion over the distance on multiple occasions in recent years. Wednesday's event saw Wilde start with hopes to improve on his current personal best of 13:29.47. Potentially the Commonwealth Games ace standard of 13:17 was a target. In the leading trio inside the final kilometre, Ollie Chingnell raised the pace on the home straight with 2 laps remaining and quickly gained a 20-metre advantage over Wilde and Julian Oakley, from which Wilde was unable to respond. While Chingle streaked away to a new PB, Wilde didn't have the extra gear today and came home in third, 14 seconds down on his best, but still with a 13:43. Wilde is due to be back racing this Sunday, this time in the swim bike run format at the Oceania Triathlon Cup in New Plymouth. The winner of that race, I think I pronounced his name 4 different times while reading that, by the way, as well. But
14 seconds
Hayden
down on your best. Come on, Hayden. Sort it out, mate. What are you doing? You need to be better than that.
13:43. It's not fucking about, is it?
It's not fucking about, is it? No, it's very good. And look, Hayden Wilde has shown his adaptability from multi-sport to the single discipline of running quite successfully over the last year, 2 years. And so I'd love to see him race at the Commonwealth Games in the 5,000 meters, mate. It'd be amazing. What an achievement to be the sort of triathlete that he is with the success he's had and is yet to have. And then to be able to say, yeah, I also ran the 5,000 meters straight in a Commonwealth Games and possibly an Olympics in Paris. That's a good thing to look back on when you're later in your career.
Well, we talked about him trying to qualify for the 5,000 meters for Tokyo, which unfortunately he didn't qualify for. But I don't think anybody could look at, we have this tendency where people will go, oh, you didn't make it, sucked in or whatever. I don't think anybody can say, oh, he did a bad thing by attempting to qualify for the 5,000 meters, considering he got the bronze off the back of a killer run leg. I mean, a great performance. But I think Hayden doing this stuff is really paying dividends to his triathlon too. He's one of the strongest bike runners in the sport at the moment in the short course stuff. And yeah, I love the thought of him racing. That'd be 3 events: mixed team relay, individual race, and the 5,000 meters. That's cool.
How fast do you think you could run 5,000 meters on a track, Mr. Ford?
Right now, I know my best. I'm not on track.
What's your best? What's your best?
Best is 17:24. I think is my best 5K.
It's not bad.
I did one the other day, which was like 18:10. I think 18:12. I ran one like 2 weeks ago, the day after a 22K run, like Friday night 22K run, park run. And I was really good. I was flying for the first 3K and I fell to pieces, like big time. It was horrible. But that's the fun of 5K running, mate, isn't it? It's brutal. What about you?
Oh, me, I haven't run a straight 5K for a long time. Last time I did, it was on the lanes in Devon here, and it was 22 minutes. But that wasn't on a track, so
So I mean, you're about 5 minutes behind me.
Yeah, but this wasn't on a track. There was elevation, mate.
I wasn't on a track. I was a park run.
You were on a track, basically.
Park run.
Flat
surface.
What are you
talking about?
Yeah, you probably had a dog.
1,000 meters elevation.
Was it dog assisted?
No, I don't have a dog. I got a cat. Can you imagine trying to do a park run with my cat? She'd just sit there and just, nope, not doing it. Did you, speaking of running, I was watching, again, I say it a lot, Mikkel Eden, Gustav's brother, best triathlon content on YouTube. They did a video this week, and it's Gustav doing this horrible run. It was 27 kilometers of running uphill. Like it's brutal.
Yeah, that sounds pretty bad.
He did it really well too. He's going to be on form, I think, for St. George. He's going to be good. So, mate, lots to get excited about St. George. And speaking of St. George, our next article comes from Romy Louise van Schoenveld at Try Today, and that is Joe Skipper about Jan Frodeno and St. George. Nobody is unbeatable at that race. He's won multiple Ironmans, but gold at the Ironman World Championship isn't on his resume yet. Britain's Joe Skipper is a serious underdog for the upcoming Ironman World Championships in St. George. Skipper might be considered underdog, but he has his sights set on the highest prize, the win. He said, they should hope that they've upped their game because I've definitely upped mine. Everyone's beatable. If people think he's unbeatable, they should be ashamed, Skipper says about Jan Frodeno, because there is no way someone's unbeatable. You've all got to swim, you've all got to bike, and you've all got to run. Skipper will head out to the Ironman World Championships in St. George for one thing. I'm going there for the win. I'm not messing around. Jimbo, we touched on this last week, and I saw this article. I wanted to throw it in again because I love this attitude from Joe Skipper.
Yeah, I do as well. I remember when I was talking to Joe at the Collins Cup, we were both a bit drunk, and we were discussing, working together and the future and all this. And we had a conversation along these lines about how he and I were annoyed that a lot of pros kind of defer to Jan Frodeno as the GOAT and, put that, if Jan has his best day, I can't beat him attitude on it. And this was the basis of our conversation and the sort of the launch point to him coming and working with us and all that and joining the Bahrain team. So I'm really pleased that he's still there and he's still got that mindset because he hasn't he's not one of the professionals who thinks, if Jan Frodeno's on, then I'm racing for second, and that's not the attitude you ever want to see in anything.
Joe's racing, I think it's next weekend in South Africa.
Yeah,
I think it's next weekend. It's same as Oceanside. Then it must be.
No, it's a bit later than that, isn't it? Isn't it April 2nd? Oh, that's next weekend. Yeah, it's next weekend, mate.
Yeah, I'm genuinely. I mean, we'll talk about it later. But we saw Cat Matthews absolutely make a statement in Lanzarote on the weekend.
Mm-hmm.
I'm excited to see Joe come out because we've seen, if you watch Joe's YouTube, you see the stuff that he's doing, and I'm super keen to see where he's at because I think he's going to be absolutely flying, and I'm here for it. But you're right. The main thing is I really like this attitude, and it is something I think I don't know whether it is the change of the guard a little bit that seems to be happening with the Norwegian stuff, but I feel like people maybe are starting to that attitude of, oh, Jan has to have his best day. I don't know why, considering he still hasn't lost. I still think for the first time people are starting to see him maybe as beatable, and I don't understand. He hasn't done anything wrong.
No. But the problem is people have moved their deferral to the fucking Norwegians now, haven't they? As opposed to deferring to Jan, they're just like, oh, I'm done with deferring to you. I'll defer to you now instead. And it's
so like, now I've got to beat Jan, and I've got to. So for me to win, I need to have. Well, Jan needs to have a bad day, and then Christian needs to have a bad day.
We need to have no Norwegians in the race.
Stuff needs to have a bad day, and then maybe I have a chance.
Talking about Jan's record, Jan's run of success. I saw a tweet by Brad Culp the other day, which is interesting. Looking at how many victories he had in a row, and then following that up with looking at the PTO's athlete page for Jan Frodeno. And it's just first. And the PTO athlete page is a really good way to sort of visibly represent how an athlete is doing. So go and have a look at Jan Frodeno's results page on the PTO website because it is something to behold.
Speaking of Brad Culp's tweets, he put another one, I think it was yesterday or today, and he was doing the program for St. George, and he said, it's shocking that Annie Haug is 39, has raced triathlon professionally for 14 years. I might be getting the numbers wrong, I can't remember. For 14 years. And Danielle Arif is 34, has been racing for 19 years. There was something ridiculous like that. I was like, oh my God, that's shows how long she's been doing it, hey? Like, and one of the things Chris talks a lot about is that athletic age and the fact that, Daniela, while she's young still, she's raced at the highest level for a very long time, and she's probably starting to fatigue a little bit. So
yeah, indeed.
Well, on to another thing, mate. Which I guess it's still championship sort of news, but this is from Triathlon Today. Just didn't have an author, so we'll just breeze through this one. World Triathlon sets multi-sport championships for Townsville in 2024. After a few years of trying, it looks like Townsville, Australia, will finally have a chance to host the World Triathlon multi-sport championships in 2024. The event was scheduled to take place in 2021, but thanks to we all know what, the event wasn't able to happen in North Queensland City. Today, World Triathlon announced that the races will be held there in a couple of years. The World Triathlon Multisport Championships include World Championships for duathlon, long-distance triathlon, long-distance aquabike, aquathlon, cross triathlon, and cross duathlon. We are absolutely delighted to return to Queensland after such a long time without events in Australia. This time for one of our flagship events, the Multisport World Championships in Townsville, said World Triathlon President IC member Marisol Casado. Over the last years, Australia has become synonymous of triathlon on its multiple variations, and has proved to be a magnificent host for the triathlon family, playing host to some truly memorable performances and great champions, staging races, the result of which have helped shape the path for the entire season. So there we go, mate. It's going back to Townsville in 2024. I know we're going to talk about it this year as well, but
yeah,
it's news. It's worth mentioning, and this is probably the thing that's going to get me to go and have a crack at that ITU long course distance.
What's Townsville like, mate?
Not great from all reports, mate, to be honest. I've never been there, but I think the furthest north... No, I've been further north, I think. I don't know. North Queensland confuses me. But they're a special breed up there, mate. North Queensland is a special breed of people, so I'm sure they're lovely.
Yeah.
That's where you get the crocodiles and the jellyfish and everything up there, though. So
okay, yeah, you want to stay away from all that. Don't want to be chomped by anything, do you?
I'm keen to do this. So I've heard very good things about races in Townsville and stuff. So, when I first heard this was I was like, Townsville. But then speaking to a few people who've done races there in the past, it's pretty good. So, I'm pretty keen for it.
Nice. Well, good work. It's always good to... Yeah, I'll come, yes. It's always good to see, them making decisions early and new places and places to go and look at. So, yeah, excellent work.
Now, the next one, mate. The next one, I'm going to let you take the lead on because you put this in the doc, and I've got plenty to say about it. So
yeah, man, Maya Kingma, winner in Leeds last year and WTCS competitor for this year, went out. And I got this from Triathlon Netherlands website. And forgive me if there were any issues during reading this, because I did have to translate it from Dutch to English. But she went and ran a 32:39 minute 10 kilometer. Now, this impressive fast finishing time just resulted in Maya Kingma winning the Steven Sloop, which she was not the only multi-athlete in the top 5 because...
Sorry? What did she win?
She won the Steven Sloop, which is what it's called, isn't it?
I don't know how to pronounce Dutch. I just like to hear you attempt it.
Because...
Sorry, what was it? Where was it again?
Steven Sloop. Marke Brouwers, age group world champion duathlon in 2021, took 3rd place, and triathlete Sophie van Most was 5th. Kingma recorded a time of 16:08 minutes in the first 5 kilometers and eventually crossed the line as the winner in 32:39 on the clock. So, mate, yeah, I thought it was worth mentioning this because that is really quick, isn't it? That's really quick.
One of the things that shocked me about it was, I think Maya was saying that it's like 20 seconds off Gwen Jorgensen's best ever 10K road time.
Yeah.
Man, it's lightning, hey. Yeah. And again, Maya has always sort of struggled with her run. And we've seen like it's probably the weak chink in her armor when she's such a good swim biker. But mate, she's made some changes to the coaching. We've reported a lot of what was happening in the Netherlands Triathlon Federation. So Maya's made changes to her coaches this year. It's working, mate. This is
man. We're starting to see a real balance come back, aren't we? And for someone who has not doubted is the wrong word, but known her weakness in the run and considered it a permanency, as in, I just limit my running and I do what I can on the run. But to see her go out and put a time like this on the board, it's like, oh fuck, yeah, actually can run. And so I think there's a lot more to come from Maya Kingma this year, and I'd love to see that spread across the swim bike run because she's going to be a contender.
While you were speaking, I cast my eyes over the dock to try to work out what you were trying to pronounce. Where is it called again?
Steven Sloop.
And I'm surprised that you didn't choose to go with the most boring way of pronouncing it, Steven's Loop.
It could be Steven's Loop, couldn't it? I put a sort of Dutch tint on it, mate.
I love the thought that they're all like, "What's this? It's Steven's Loop. It's Steven, our friend Steven.
It's his loop."
Once more, how do you say it?
Steven's Loop. Was it? If it was Steven's Loop, then I would assume it to be 2 words with an apostrophe between the N and the S in Steven.
You use Google Translate, mate. Maybe you got lost in translation.
Yeah,
maybe you can blame that on Google.
Maybe it's another shepherdess type. Shepherdess type thing.
Dutch listeners, please at bale.james85 on Twitter. Let him know you actually pronounced the name of this run because that was amazing. I'm not even going to try to embarrass myself because I would absolutely butcher it. We're going to continue on. We're going to press on. Maya, congratulations. Amazing time. Can't wait to see what happens in Yokohama, the season opener, which is what? 15th of May. Is that right? 11th of May? 15th of May? 15th of May?
Yeah, something along those lines, yeah.
Weekend after St. George. After St. George. Remember that, ladies and gentlemen. The next piece of news comes from Triathlon Magazine Canada, Kevin McKinnon. It just got easier to enter an Ironman. Ironman says it has come up with ways to optimize and expand event space safely so that it can open up more spots for athletes to sign up for races that are already full. Now, James, I can hear our listeners going, this sounds good. Let me continue. After 2 years of race cancellations and deferments, entering many of the most popular Ironman events has been near impossible in 2022. Athletes who have been frustrated that have been unable to sign up for some of the most popular events will have another chance. Now, though, as Ironman has opened up registrations to 11 Ironman and 70.3 races, including the 2 Ironman European Championship events in Germany, Hamburg and Frankfurt, and the UK. Due to the huge interest we received for these races originally and taking into account a disappointing couple of years of race cancellations, we've really wanted to find a way of giving athletes the race and experience they were dreaming of this year, says Declan Byrne, Vice President of Operations in Europe, Middle East and Africa for the Ironman Group. So we have been working closely with the operations team in each event country to make this happen while continuing to ensure a smooth and safe event experience. We are excited to be reopening these races to the public and look forward to welcoming athletes from all over the world to some of our most sought-after European races. For those who can afford it, Ironman is also pushing its additional range of services so athletes can customize their race experience. Services include VIP parking, VIP athlete concierge support, hospitality for athletes and supporters, along with personalized medal engraving. James Bale, what do you think, mate?
Well, we've obviously had 2 years where athletes have been deferring race after race because of, the events transpiring across the globe. So you've got a lot of races coming at once this year for a lot of people. Now, with that, you've got people who are finally going to be able to do the races that they haven't been able to do over the last 2 years. And they've also moved races around, and they've tried to fit into now this huge dearth of racing that's hitting us. But alongside that, you've got Ironman who are suddenly going, shit, we've got no one signing up for any races because we've got no race spots left because everybody's just a deferral athlete, and so they're not making any money now. The start of this article where it says they come up with ways to optimize and expand event space safely so that it can open up more spots for athletes. I wonder why they haven't particularly gone into any detail as to what that is, because I'd like to know how you're going to do that when you've got these races that are on courses that are already set for an amount of people that are already racing. How exactly are they expanding the race so that it can be done safely to accommodate more people? Are we just going to see those people that have got racing deferrals this year just having a worse time because there's going to be more people on course because they're expanding the size of the participation? And yeah, I don't know, man. I just need more detail because,
But
God,
James, they're doing it because people want to have those experiences, mate. That's the reason Ironman's doing this. It's not because of COVID deferrals and trying to
it's
boost their
not. So
revenue,
it's
of
not to make
course.
money. It's not.
No, mate. I think
Definitely,
this is just about
it's
ensuring those triathletes who've been starved for races over the last couple of years
yeah.
can go. And again, James, if they can afford it, not if they want, if they can afford it, they can also have a package of customized VIP experiences at the races that they go to now. I can't wait for them to actually like allow an entry where you just sign up and then they actually you can pay someone to do the race for you. That's going to be like the ultra premium. Like you want to go to Kona. Well, we've got a pro athlete who will race for you in the age group field. You just pay them $10,000. They'll put your race number and belt on, and away they go. And you get the slot at the end of it. That'll be the VVVIP experience.
It's yeah, I the lack of detail is obviously because they're just going, shit, we need to
Do
make
people
some more money
believe
on
it?
this. Yeah, I
Do
don't
people
know.
believe this? Like, you read it. As soon as I saw this headline, because you put this in the doc, and I was like, and then I realized why. But I was like, do people actually believe that this is for anything other than shit? We found a way that we can make even more money from the same event. If we can make $100,000 from an event and we can suddenly make 150, I mean, I don't begrudge them. Again, I get it. As long as it's going to maintain the safety and everything, maximize your revenue. I want this company to make money because I want these races to continue forever. I want more of them. I love race. But like, God, it's this spin. It's this bloody like we're doing it for you. We care about your experience. So this is for you. Oh, and by the way, like it's just it seems a little bit like at this point, guys, we know what you are. We know how you operate. We've seen it.
Yeah.
Just
I find it a bit
patronizing
and a little bit along the lines of how annoying I find the inspirational videos when I'm trying to watch the coverage. It's just like, oh, come on, just let's watch the racing. And with this, just say, look, it's been a rough few years, so we're expanding some slots and we're going to be doing it safely and the races aren't going to be impacted. Don't add on the bit about, we know that people are desperate for the experience. It's like, it's just all a bit emotional to me. It's all a bit emotional.
exactly.
Mate. I don't need it.
I know. But again, mate, I think that's the thing, is that that's very much at the core of Ironman's brand, isn't it? It's all about the inspiration, the pulling at the heartstrings. The races that they've included in this are Ironman 70.3. What's that one, mate? I'm sick. Can you say it for me? It's French, I believe.
Oh yeah. I do know how to
Pays
say it.
in Provence.
Yeah, Pays en Provence. Let's go for that.
Then there's 70.3 Krakow. Is that right? Krakow, whatever it is.
Yeah, good luck.
European Championships Hamburg Ironman, European Championships Frankfurt. That's men and women's, I believe. Ironman UK, Ironman 70.3 Swansea, 70.3 Cork, Ironman Ireland, Ironman Kalmar, Ironman Copenhagen, and Ironman Wales. I think there's probably going to be another entry open for Copenhagen, don't you?
Yeah, there probably might be. Yeah, there may well be. There may well be
Okay,
one slot coming spare.
Jimbo, it's time to turn our attention to some races that happened over the weekend, and I thought the best place to start would be in one of the hardest races on the planet, Ironman 70.3 Lanzarote. Let's go to the women's race first. John Levinson, Try 24/7, put together the summary for us. Kat Matthews advertised her claims to be a contender for glory at St. George in May by claiming an impressive victory at 70.3 Lanzarote on Saturday. Let's start with the swim. Jess Limont and Lucy Buckingham, two of the best triathlon swimmers we've ever seen, not for the first time in their careers, led the way together. They built a full 3-minute advantage over Matthews and Haug, with France's Marjolaine Pierre completing a chasing trio. Onto the bike, Limont, riding her road bike, she didn't have a TT, pulled away from Buckingham in the early stages of the ride. While behind, the chasing trio was soon the expected to, with Matthews and Haug trying to get back towards the front of the race. As the ride unfolded, it was clear that the bike legs were with Matthews as she pulled clear of Haug. By around 30k, she moved into second place, passing Buckingham, and around the halfway mark had made it to the front of the race, eradicating the 3-minute swim deficit to Limont. Matthews rolled into T2 with a bike split of 2:27.56 and, more importantly, a lead of 3 minutes 43 seconds over Limont and a whopping 5 minutes 43 over Haug. Onto the run. As the run progressed, Haug did manage to chip away at Kat Matthews' lead a bit and move past Limont into second, but she was never remotely near challenging. While challenging the very best in the sport in the swim will likely always prove a challenge, this was a complete performance for Kat Matthews. Adding a very strong run, 1:17.55, to a blockbuster bike effort should put a huge smile on her face, and in case anyone was in doubt, further cement Matthews as a true contender for St. George. Haug showed her typical run speed with the fastest split of the race of 1:16.04, but it was only good enough for second place, more than 3.5 minutes back, and the day belonged to Matthews. So the women's results: first place, Kat Matthews, 4:17.46. Second place, Annie Haug, 4:21.23. Third place, Jess Limont, 4:23.44. Jimbo, what do you think?
What a race and what a performance from Kat Matthews. I loved this, mate. I was watching the tracker very, very closely as the race unfolded. And, as expected on the swim, you had two of the strongest swimmers in the sport pulling ahead of the group and coming out ahead. Watching Kat pull her way back on the bike and then take the lead and then just put distance into her and her other competitors was astounding. And it was with a real... it wasn't sort of like a wild attack. It was just a real consistent show of dominance as that lead grew. And then I was watching Mark's Instagram, Kat's partner's Instagram, and as she came into T2,
I was going to say this.
The Ironman commentator who was on the microphone said, she needs a buffer over Anne Haug because Anne Haug can run 5 minutes into her. Absolutely not. Absolutely did not happen. How
doesn't know who he's talking about. Hey?
Yeah, indeed. How chipped away at that lead slightly, but by nowhere near enough to run that 5 minutes into Kat. And also, even if she had, she'd have still been 45 seconds ahead because she was 5:43 ahead at the at T2. So, what an outstanding performance and a sign of things to come, man. Because St. George is calling.
Yeah, exactly. And I mean, the other thing that I think is absolutely worth noting, like, Jess Limont is one of the strongest cyclists in short course racing. Like, Jess Limont is an incredible swim biker. Like, she is sensational. So to have that complete 3-minute lead wiped and then another 2 minutes added on, is that right? Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, mate, seriously, Kat is in such good form. Like, and I know that you look at the time 4:17 and you're like, oh, it's not that quick. This is a tough course. This is a tough course. And the other thing that I find so positive about this is we look at people who've listened to this podcast heard me go on and on and on about Lucy Child's performance in St. George last year, where Lucy ran at 1:18 off a toughish bike, but on a very hilly course. This is not a flat, fast course either. This is Lanzarote is a tough race. So for her to run that run split off a very hard bike that I think is probably harder than St. George, mate, so good. This Kat is absolutely making a statement. And we've seen in all the press that she's done afterwards saying that for herself, it's giving her the confidence. Okay, I can go to St. George and I can potentially win this race. It makes me so excited, mate, to see St. George unfold, because I think that women's both races, there's some names that are going to do some damage on that course that people maybe aren't paying that much attention to. I think people are going to be paying attention to Kat after this.
Yeah, without question. And her confidence would have been done the world of good as well. Not that she's not a confident athlete, but getting a performance like this against the current Ironman reigning world champion a few weeks before you go and race the World Championships, which is on a course that is gonna suit you more than, let's say, Kona may, is a real boost a real shot in the arm.
The other thing I'm curious about is we've not really seen Annie Haug do much throughout the last couple of years. And if I know that for us, for example, we've spoken a lot about Daniela Ryf. Why do you think people aren't having the same whispers or rumors or murmurs about? I mean, Annie Haug's 39 years old, but people are still like not. I don't know. She just almost like what we were saying before. She seems to just sort of like float by and doesn't get the same scrutiny that a Daniela Ryf gets. Obviously, Daniela's probably the greatest long course athlete ever. But what do you think this says for Annie Haug? She didn't have that run through, or is it that there are more people who are better runners that suddenly that ability to just run through the field, it ain't cutting it anymore?
Yeah, I just don't think when it comes to comparing Ryf and Haug, I don't think Haug's had the success that Ryf's had. So therefore, she doesn't come under the same microscope.
Yeah,
in terms of,
but more the lack of form. I think is it not necessarily direct comparison, but more the fact that Annie Haug is the reigning Ironman world champion, and we've not really seen her do much. But nobody seems to like. I don't know if I'm making myself. It's just it seems to me like people are like, Annie will just do Annie. We'll see Annie. Annie's one of the favorites for St. George, and I'm seeing this and going, is she?
Yeah,
is she? I don't know. Based on this, I'm starting to think that we might not see Annie or Daniela. I mean, Daniela, who knows? But I don't know, mate. Maybe not.
Yeah, I mean, look, I hear what you're saying, and Haug has got to be within striking distance on the run to be able to activate that killer run that she's got. And I think on a course like Lanzarote, the bike is very, very hard and may have just numbed that run a little bit, so that when she did come into T2, she wasn't going to put in that performance because she'd had to fight so hard to limit her losses to Kat on the run. Now that was because Kat was on such good form. That's not because of the course. It's because Kat was doing such a good performance on such a hard course that she put her competitors in a position where they had to fight harder than they normally would and wreck their legs for the run. So yeah. I think all of this streams off the fact that Kat did such a good job, and everybody's beatable, man, and everybody knows that in order to beat a really, really good runner, you got to make him suffer on the bike. So I think that's what we're going to see in St. George. And I would suggest that Kat is one of the favourites now for St. George.
I 100% agree. What do you think about Jess's performance?
Yeah, brilliant. First 70.3, out on a road bike, got out and did it. And I think, I don't know how much of a difference the road bike, TT bike really would have made to her. But I think she's an astounding character, and I love her reaction after the race to some of the comments she got about riding a TT bike.
That's good, wasn't it?
So yeah, look, great work, Jess. And I think there's a lot more to come in her future. Because she was riding a road bike, and I'm not going to read into this too much from her result-wise. She was up on the podium, and it's astounding. But I think she's got much better performances in her over the long term.
Well, again, you also look at the fact that she's lining up. We'll talk about it soon. The Arena Games soon. Like, she's very much still a short course athlete, where you've got the two people ahead of her who are like, look at the timing. Look how close we're starting to get to St. George. People are starting to sharpen up for those races. Like, I think doing what she did is pretty impressive. I mean, I picked her for the win. I thought she'd be right up there, and she was right up there. You picked Kat for the win, so congratulations. You got one over me there. But yeah, great. I really, I think we have to give credit to Mark, Kat's husband. He did a great job of keeping us up to date with what was happening on there, not just with Kat's race, but with the race sort of overall, because watching a track is not that much fun, where, Mark was sort of giving an ongoing commentary throughout the race, which I thought was really, really great. So, and yeah, he said that when he heard the announcer say that she could run 5 minutes in a caddy's like she doesn't know what he's talking about.
Yeah.
And that made me chuckle because I'm like, yeah, exactly. To the men's race. Now, I just want to remember you did not pick the winner. You picked
I picked
who did you pick?
Chevalier.
Leon Chevalier. And I came tantalizingly close to pick the winner, but at the last minute decision that had me knock off my win. I should have trusted my gut, but then I also trusted my gut. It shows that just how good this men's field was at this race. So Lacour to the front. One of the top swimmers in draft league racing, Pierre Lacour, was never going to be alone in the field. However, he had Karl Smith, Florian Angert, and eventual winner Berger, or as James calls him, Shepherdess,
The Shepherdess.
as that leading quartet gained a 30-second advantage over their chasers. Onto the bike, and Mignon made light of his 42-second swim deficit and joined Smith at the head of the fares for the first 10 kilometres, while Chevalier was virtually matching the pace in his early stages to move from outside the top 20 at T1 into the leading 5. World Triathlon regular Berger was also riding strongly, with Germany's Florian Angert building on his strong swim with a consistent ride too. Mignon and Smith arrived at T2 together, followed by the quartet of Angert, Stein, Berger, and Chevalier, all just over 90 seconds back. With 6 athletes in this close order, this would be an interesting run. The run. Smith was first out onto the course, a position he maintained through the first 10 kilometres. He never managed to significantly distance Mignon, who still had the Kiwi in sight less than 20 seconds back. This theme continued with short course specialist Berger, the one making up a few seconds. With just 5 kilometres to go, Smith still held pole position, but the Frenchman was now just 14 seconds behind. Fast forward, and with just 2 miles to go, Smith and Berger were now shoulder to shoulder in search of the win. The French momentum continued for Berger, who, in what he believed was his first Ironman 70.3 start, was his first 70.3 start, was able to pull clear of Smith over the closing kilometre to take a hard-earned win. His run split 1:10.56. So the results in the men's race: Leah Berger 3:55.44, second place Karl Smith 3:56.11, third place Florian Angert 3:57.37.
You almost got it, didn't you, mate? You almost got that win. You almost got that. I was very wrong. My pick came in 5th place, but it's good to see the Shepherdess out there, fielding his flock.
Do I get a half point for struggling so bad to pick the 2, and then it did become such a close race for those 2? Do I get a half point
because
for that?
Initially, didn't you try to pick 5 initially or something?
No, 3. I picked the top 3. Yeah. I tried to pick the top 3.
Just like everybody might win.
No, I was trying to, because again, I was struggling.
Yeah.
Some points for me with this. I mean, firstly, Leo Berger, I think he's just continuing that. We've seen a lot of short course people stepping up to 70.3 and winning. We saw Martin Van Riel do it. We've seen him do it. We've seen Yellow Gaines do it. Well, Yellow Gaines and Vincent Louis didn't win that Indian Well race, but they went well. Like, we're seeing more of these guys doing it. But Karl Smith is an athlete that I really like. I think this kid has a huge future ahead of him. I mean, we discussed, we had a bit of chat with him last year. We were trying to get him up for the Arena Games, but he sort of got shoved aside a little bit or screwed over a little bit by Triathlon New Zealand. So he goes, fuck it, I'll go middle distance. He's in Girona now training for the Unfredino, and he sort of famously last year at Elsinore went fantastic for the first 10K of the run and faded like massively. And I think I've heard a few people say, Karl Smith's great for the first 10K up until the 10K point of the run, and then he fades. So the fact that he did eventually lose, but he held on and only, barely lost to some of the best athletes on the planet, shows that whatever he's doing is working. And again, he's raced in St. George, I believe. Look out. He's an athlete to watch in the future, I think.
Yeah, totally. He's got a lot more to come. And it was a good pick. It was just that Berger was better on the day, mate.
Exactly. And again, I tell you what it was for Berger that really got me was that was it in Montreal? Was that where they did the sprint, that super sprint eliminator thing that WTCS did? And it was the all French podium. Vince, Berger, and was it Chevalier?
Someone else. It was one of them. Yeah, I can't remember.
Yeah, but I remember seeing that go, ooh, Berger. I mean, he did the barefoot running in Singapore, if you remember that.
Yeah, I do.
At Super League. So he's a good athlete. He
really is, and he's got I love a race that comes down to the last, few miles, a few Ks of shoulder to shoulder running. That's a race. That.
Next thing, last piece of news: Arena Games field starts to take shape with some big names confirmed. Also from Triathlon Magazine, Canada, Kevin McKinnon, Jess Learmonth takes on Beth Potter, Martin Van Riel up against Alex Yee. The first race of the series takes place on April 9th, with London scheduled for April 23rd and Singapore on May 7th. The opening race of the series will feature a number of former Arena Game champions, along with defending men's champion from the Super League Championship Series, Alex Yee, with the full start list announced during the week before the event. Limont and Potter highlight the women's field. Jess Limont might have just made her long-distance debut at 70.3 in Lanzarote, but she's certainly not given up on short course racing as of yet. Part of the gold medal British mixed relay team in Turkey last summer, she was the first ever Arena Games women's champion 2 years ago. She'll take on countrywoman Beth Potter, who won the Arena Games held in London last year. To men, Van Riel and Yee ready for another duel. Last year's Super League Triathlon Championship Series event in Malibu came down to a sprint between two-time champion, Arena Games champion Martin Van Riel, and British silver individual and gold mixed relay medalist from the Tokyo Games, Alex Yee. Germany's Justus Nischlag, another former Arena Games champion, will also be in the field in Munich. The first eSport World Triathlon title will be decided at the grand final event in Singapore. James Bale, these races are starting to look good as well.
They are, man, because the Arena Games is coming. I stuck this in because I'm just so excited to see the Arena Games when they happen. I love that form of racing. It was surprised me how much I love it. I've said it before and I'll keep saying it, but I do really enjoy it. And they're going to have some big names in there, and it's going to be a really nice way to sort of start the proper triathlon season off with some really intense racing. And with the fact that they are now aligned with World Triathlon, and this is a World Championship and with a grand final in Singapore, it's going to be a cool little series, this, mate.
Yeah, exactly right. And like I said, one of the things I love is that we start to have these discussions about who's racing who, because the last year's, which was the sort of second going of it, we sort of went in, we're like, oh, that'll be cool, or this will be good, and Lucy Charles is racing. Like, it was a bit more like,
yeah.
Whereas this one, we're starting to actually see, okay, Van Riel versus Yee is going to be fire. Jess versus Beth is going to be fire. Like, there's actual matches up.
Yeah, because we're starting with, as something evolves and it becomes a few years old, you start to see who is best suited to it, and then you can start to say, well, these two are going to be racing each other, whereas that athlete isn't actually very good at Arena Games, even though they're very good elsewhere.
Yeah.
How you doing, mate? You keep blowing your nose. You all right?
Yeah, good, mate. I'm good.
Yeah.
I'm in the microphone though, so hopefully people don't hear the discharges.
Fine. Yeah,
people don't hear the discharges. I'm going right.
You're muting it.
If I mess up my pronunciation, I'll blame it on my cold. I just want to touch on. We don't have a lot to say about. There was another race over the weekend, Challenge Port of Varas, which was in Chile. It was the first time of the race. Just quickly, the winners were Sam Long, 3:48.48. Second place, Matt Hansen, 3:52.44. And third place, Luciano Ticcioni, 3:54.42. And the women was Hayley Chura, 4:30, who outswam most of the men's field. I think she actually outswam the men's podium.
Cool.
Second place, Laura Siddle. Third place, Romina Palicio. And what was interesting on that race, I just saw this, was Laura Siddle made up some ridiculous gap on the bike that she'd lost like 6 minutes in the swim or something. Something crazy, and she made it up on the bike and actually pressed for the win a little bit. So good racing over there. Sam Long, another athlete in good fight. He's going to Oceanside next weekend,
nice.
Which is again going to be fire. So just quickly those results, James, because I want to get to the next thing, and that is what?
Welcome to the down low on the PTO. Mate, this is an interesting one because I learnt about this from one of the athletes that I coach. Actually, Liz sent me a message saying I might do the aquathon at the Multisport World Championships. And I said, where's that? And she said, oh, it's in Slovakia. And I said, when's that? And she said, oh, it's the weekend of the 22nd of August. And I was like, oh, my brain went, isn't that the same weekend as the Collins Cup? I said, well, that's the same weekend of the Collins Cup. That can't be right. So I went off and did some looking. And it looks like the links between the Professional Triathletes Organization, the PTO, and the World Triathlon were strengthened this week with news that the World Triathlon Multisport Championships will take place alongside the PTO's Collins Cup on the 18th to the 21st of August 2022. The events will include long-distance triathlon elite and age group, aquathon elite and age group, and aqua bike age group. Duathlon plus cross off-road events in both triathlon and duathlon are already on the calendar, with a separate multisport championships event in Târgu Mureș, Romania in June. Thus, the full multisport portfolio of world championships will be across two venues in 2022. The schedule is as followed. Thursday, the 18th of August, will be the aquathon. Saturday, the 20th of August, will be the Collins Cup. Sunday, the 21st of August, will be the Long Distance World Championships, Aquabike World Championships, PTO Age Group Race. The World Triathlon Long Distance Championship event will offer a $90,000 pro prize purse and a further $10,000 on offer for the Elite Aquathon race. Having the event over the same format and course a day later will certainly add incentive to any Collins Cup team selected reserves to make the trip to Slovakia in the knowledge that they will be guaranteed a high-profile race, be it on Saturday Collins Cup or Sunday World Triathlon Long Distance Championships. Sunday races will also be broadcast live on Triathlon Live. Now, do you think anyone would do both, mate?
Well, a few things.
Uh-oh.
First, I just picked up on something you just said. Having the event over the same format and course a day later, does that mean that the long distance, ITU long distance, is going to be a 280 20? Whatever the Collins Cup distances are? Is it going to be a 100K race rather than because normally, isn't it a 4K? What is it normally? 4K 150 30 or something? 4K
yeah, it's
160
kind of like
30?
it's kind of like a slightly reduced distance.
Do you reckon that they've changed it?
It's very possible, mate. Even if they haven't, they might just be using the same course and reducing it slightly. But they may have changed it. I really like this. I really like this because
okay, interesting.
It's a.
I don't.
Do you not? Then you're wrong, and I'm right.
I really don't like this actually, and I can tell you why.
Okay, well, let me go into why I like it because I like festivals of multisport. I like the fact that this weekend is going to be one big festival of multisport. I like to see the PTO working with World Triathlon. I'm a big fan of the experience, the punter, whether they are a competitor age group or just going along to watch, is going to get there because they're going to be able to see so many different races on one weekend. And I'm well up for that. Tell me why I'm wrong. I've got something in my eyes and I can't stop.
It's okay. I've got something in my throat. I got something in my nose. You got something in your eyes. Where the complete set. I agree with everything you said. I like everything you say about that. And I was reading this going, I like this. And then I went, hang on a second. That suddenly means the only official long course world title is the day after the possibly biggest paying race. It's going to have the biggest field of stars race, which means you're not going to see. And I know that ITU doesn't often get the best fields, but this eliminates, I think, in my mind, the chance of anyone who's going to race the Collins Cup from going and doing that ITU long course world title, which is a world title. Yeah. That's the only issue I have with it, mate. I like everything about it.
You might see the Collins Cup happen, and then we're all at the after party, and you notice in the corner Joe Skipper's just sitting there drinking soda water because the next day he's going to go and win the long course world championship. You never know. I mean, athletes might take on the double. I think it's quite cool. I think it would be really cool to see them do the Collins Cup on one day and then the World Championships the next day. I'd love that. I love multi-day racing.
The other thing, though, as well as I think putting it next to each other and saying, we have a $90,000 prize purse directly next to the Collins Cup, which we know has this huge prize purse, also further demonstrates how pathetic a lot of the prize purses are at these races. No, like literally, I was bang on board for this and it's funny because Joe's somebody that I'd actually really like to see go and have a crack at the ITU long course title because I think he'd win it. And I was like, fuck, that means we're not going to probably see Joe do both. Because, I mean, he could. You might be wrong. But I just don't like the fact... I mean, and again, I get it. It doesn't seem to matter when they put ITU long course. It doesn't often get a very big field. But I want it to, mate. Like, this is another race that I think, we could see good things. And again, everything about it's great. Everything you said, I agree with. I just don't like that one thing because I want to see more of the bigger names on that race too.
Yeah.
That's it.
Marisol Casado said, I want to thank all the parties involved in this event. I think partnering with the PTO X Bionic Sphere and the Challenge family will result in an event that will be a great spectacle for all athletes and spectators, as well as for the city and the region. Athletes will be able to watch many of the world's very best long-distance triathletes in action during the weekend. We're all ready to offer all the athletes the best experience possible and to make this an unforgettable event. Sam Renouf, CEO of the PTO, added, "We are excited to welcome World Triathlon and the athletes who've qualified for the 2022 World Triathlon Multisport Championships to race along the PTO's flagship event, the Collins Cup." It's an interesting one. I wonder what the conversations were like behind the scenes. I wonder whether these two events maybe were struggling a little bit to generate the enthusiasm and on-the-ground support and thought if we combined, we might be able to get more people there. I don't know. But I love it. I'm well up for it, and I want to see a rule in place where if you get selected to race the Collins Cup, you have to race the ITU Long Distance World Championship the next day afterwards.
Dreaming. Absolutely dreaming. That's never going to happen. It's interesting that you say you bang up for it, that where we were sort of criticizing Ironman a little bit before, when it's like, yeah, we're just finding more ways to. Last year they had.
This isn't an expanding.
I know. I'm poking holes, man. I'm trying to have conversation. What I was going to say was, last year they had the Challenge Championship the day after, which we know is in May this year. Mm-hmm. So it's natural that they put something else on the day after. And I guess why didn't I didn't have the same concerns last year about the Challenge Championship?
No,
which was literally the day after. And, so I'm a bit of a hypocrite too.
From the PTO's perspective, it's good. You partner with World Triathlon, and all these age groups are coming over to do their aquathon, their aqua bike, their world.
Watch the race.
You've just got yourself a packaged audience. Boom, delivered.
And we also saw a few years ago, Challenge was saying that if they ever offered a world championship, they wanted it to be an official world sanctioned championship, which clearly hasn't happened. Maybe the PTO is the one who does it. Maybe we see a PTO event be the official ITU world title, and I'd like that. I'd like it to be away from the Collins Cup. But I'd like to see one of the, I guess we call them the big three now: Ironman Challenge and Ironman.
So PTO. We'll be there, won't we? We'll be there. Are you going to race? Are you going to race one of these World Triathlon events? We should do the Collins Cup though, shouldn't we? Really? You and I age group or what?
I'd probably prefer. If I had to pick between the two, I'd probably do that one. If I'm honest.
Yeah.
I have to qualify though. I don't know. We'll see.
You should do the ITU one, and I'll do the Collins Cup one, and we'll both compare notes.
Okay. The problem is you got to wear I don't know where the Australian kit. Night. Yeah, that's a good point. Okay, I'll do Collins Cup. Decision made. James Bale, if you also want to get drunk around races and have a good time, but also do some good training, you should head to St. George. Our camp is open. We have sign-ups coming in. It is going to be a good time. And if you want to get a discount on our St. George camp, you should head to mxendurance.com/podcast and sign up for our podcast membership, because every member of MX Endurance gets a big discount on every camp that we offer. In addition to that, you get bonus monthly episodes, partner discounts. I had somebody say that they saved $211 on a wetsuit this week because they used our MX Endurance discount code, which more than covers their membership fee. You save money for all the triathlon stuff you need. You get bonus monthly content. You get other cool content. You get to be part of the community, ask questions, all that good stuff. You support the podcast, and you can get a discount on the St. George camp. Head to mxendurance.com/podcast. But if they want to find out the other things, Jimbo, including about the camp, where do they need to go?
Come to the camp, guys. It's going to be amazing. If you want to find out more about MX Endurance, head to mxendurance.com or search MX Endurance on Facebook or at MX Endurance on Twitter or Instagram. If you want to follow me, I'm at bale.james85 on Instagram, or you can follow Tim at tford14 on Instagram. Jump onto iTunes, give the show a review. You can do it in the podcast app, making it super easy. If you like what we're doing, tell a friend, help us grow. If you've got any suggestions, comments, or do you just want to find out about the camp and where you can join, send an email to podcast@mxendurance.com.
Perfect, mate. Didn't fuck that one up. James Bale, a pleasure as always. We'll be back next week to talk about Oceanside. Is probably the big chat next week, in South Africa. So some good things coming up.
There you go. Take care, all.
Talk to you next time. See you later.